Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny Show. Why is this show called this? You may ask, so I tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So, my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And also, I like working with angels, the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Stephanie Zito. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it really means a lot to me to connect with like minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present, to raise your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, and take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and through divine guidance, virtual and actual retreats, transformational packages, a 6-week guided meditation series for confidence, workshops, and so much more, you can remember why you are here, your spiritual path, and the clarity on the next steps to take. Now, each episode of the show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation or an angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guest, like today's guest, Stephanie Zito, who'll be talking about from fear to freedom through uncovering the shadow. Now, Stephanie is an intuitive soul purpose coach who sees right through stories and blocks that hold you back from the success you desire. Through intuitive insight and channeling your soul guides, Stephanie helps you quantum leap to make shifts and to make decisions for your freedom and happiness. Now, following her master's in conflict analysis and resolution, Stephanie went on to work in corporate team building and provide transformative experiences in the world for groups and teams. Now, as a certified yoga and meditation instructor, Stephanie uses the power of yoga, breath work, and meditation as transformative tools for her clients. And I really can't get my teeth fixed today. Now, Stephanie is also a transformative speaker, best-selling author, and podcast host of The Passionate Life. And Stephanie's mission is to help you find your inner spark and freedom and healing that comes from following your intuition. So, without further delay, hello, Stephanie, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny Show. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing amazing. How are you doing, Ray?
Yeah, very well, apart from getting my teeth fixed. But hey, that's
What do you
sometimes
mean?
sometimes
What's
my
going on? What are
speech
you doing?
just stumbles over
Oh,
the
you're
words.
fine. You're absolutely fine. You're all good.
So before we get
Of
into this
language.
before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Stephanie and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. So, Stephanie, why don't you tell us more about your journey and about how we can use intuition to differentiate, got it, the intuition that protects us versus fear that holds us back?
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here with you and have this conversation. And I think my earpods must have just died. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Can
Okay.
you
I'm
hear
going to
me?
take these out because, oh, yeah, these are just like for show now. So I'm going to take them out. It's been a busy day, so it's all good. Yeah, so if you're here listening, I would imagine if you're a human being on this Earth school, planet Earth, you may experience some fear in some way about something that you really want to do, right? It's really typical, it's very normal. And I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. But one thing I really want to mention is that. A lot of our fears, they are in our DNA. They're coming from this backstory, but there's a lot of things that are societal that are kind of ingrained in us just in living in community over time that we may experience as personal. And yet it really is coming from something that has like this deep lineage, right? That has been sort of just structured into the way we live and the way we do things. And I guess I say that because a lot of the women who come to me are intuitive and they're just trying to understand it or discover it or feel safe with it. And a lot of times they feel unsafe with it. And I get a lot of the same questions like, how do I trust it? How do I know it's my intuition? How do I know I'm not making it up? And the reason why we have that discussion and that's coming up over and over again isn't about you personally. It's because of our ancestry. And it's because so many aspects of intuition have been like squelched. I feel like there's some other word for it, but I think of the word
I
squelched
like
because
squelch. Yeah.
squelched, squelched,
Yeah.
right? Because, well, that's like a nice way to put it because some bad things have happened.
Polite
And so,
way.
yeah, so many people have these like traumas and these deep fears about being seen, right? In their personhood, being seen in their individuality, being seen in their intuition. And it is the witch's wound. It is the shaman's wound. It is the wound. Even hypnosis. I just got certified in hypnosis. And would you believe it or
Oh,
not?
congratulations.
Hypnosis, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So hypnosis was considered a threat by the church back in the 1800s, and they denounced it. They said, don't get don't do hypnosis. It's bad. It's, all that stuff. Why? Because it's so powerful and it's so in tune, right? That if we're in tune with ourselves, we don't need to listen to these power structures in the same way. We don't have to give our power over in the same way. It's really threatening. It's so interesting because it seems so beautiful, so benign. And yet I want to start out with understanding this imprint of fear in stepping into our greatness has a backstory that goes way beyond you. So maybe when you hear that, you might breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Oh, it's not just me. It's not just about me, right? And when we can release that piece, we say, okay, that's not mine. I hand that back. I hand that over. I release that. Then we can get to work on our other mindset stuff that might be ours. So a little bit about my story, because you're asking, I feel like I have always been intuitive. I really used to just read the room, read the backstory of what was really going on for people, especially in my own family. And there was really nowhere to put that. I didn't really grow up in a family. My friend just went to go see a psychic in New Orleans. In New Orleans, it's like in the lineage.
Yeah.
So it's not like I grew up with that kind of lineage. But I started to sort of have these like little doses of people in my life who were showing me the path. Like my first beautiful friend who ever did a tarot reading for me. And it took me about like a year and a half to really gear up to even do that and to feel safe to even do that. And then finding myself following my intuition, traveling in India by myself and doing things that might have seemed really risky to some people who were like, you're nuts. And yet, like, because I felt safe in my intuition without even realizing that's what it was, I had these amazing experiences that if I had been in my fear, I would never have had. Right. And I see that time and time again when I look back at like, oh my gosh, I heard that voice so clearly showing me the way. And maybe I said no to it at the time. And I went through the harder process because I said no to it, which is okay. But I learned things along the way that helped me surrender and say yes. And now as a coach, what I started to realize when I started coaching in 2016 was I knew there was a way to get quicker to the roots of what was blocking someone. And of course, synchronistically, when I got to follow the synchronicities, I found the training to help me to tap into the things that I was already studying, I was already involved with chakras and reading them. And so it started to come very naturally. And at this point, I'd have to count like the hundreds of people that I've worked with. It's just developed, right? Like through leading and guiding people in courses to deepen your intuition, through my membership, where I'm in a regular practice doing this, right? With connecting with soul guides, channel writing, like these different ways that we connected with intuition. I've really seen things unlock that I wasn't even planning on, like psychic mediumship and being able to connect with people's loved ones on the other side. I know for a lot of time I was like, no, that's not for me. I'm just here for people's soul purpose. That's something else. But then, sure enough, like when you're in the quantum field and you're connecting with the intuitive space, it's all game. It's all available. It's just sort of like, what radio station are you going to tune into? And when you're like, oh, I can listen to that radio station too, that one's also available to me, then, and we feel like it's safe to do so. There's been a lot of, for me, ego release. Like, and it's been so beautiful because, I come from a place of love. I'm never really meaning to have ego get in the way, but the ego wants to protect us, and I want to feel safe, and I wanted to feel like I was getting it right. I think a lot of people are like, oh, what if I get it wrong? And I had to kind of put that aside and just speak what was channeling through. And through allowing that, I feel like it really allowed my throat chakra to unlock. And, in human design, I'm connected, right? Like this, the forehead chakra. I mean, in human design, the head space and the throat space, there's a channel that's connected. So for me, a lot of times I'll just say something that I've already computed in my brain. And people, when they're on board, they're like, I got you. And when they're not, they're like, I don't even know where you are right now. but but the beauty is it lets that, when the channel is open, I feel like I just now know as soon as I'm getting it, just to speak it. And I think at this point I've had enough validation through, what someone's loved one looks like, or what they would have definitely said, or seeing like a dragon that's protecting someone, and they actually have a dragon tattoo on their back that they got when they left their first abusive relationship, or these different things that have been sort of that we kind of want that proof,
Yeah.
and I think what that leads us into, and I can see our friend Heather's here. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. What I feel like that leads us, and I'm so open to questions, like just bring it, What I feel like that leads us into is we want this proof. But the thing is, when we're following intuition, this is the conundrum. We're going to get that proof, but it's not going to be like the proof that we necessarily
Yeah.
think that we want. Like when I left a bad relationship, I wanted proof that my life would work out in California, right? And that was keeping me back from taking the step. But intuition is like, girl, you got to just take that step, and then we'll show you the next step. But like, you have to like walk hand in hand with us. If you're holding back here, we're going to keep throwing you signs. But like, you have to be like, okay, let's take that next step, and then they can show you the next step. Right. And so that, I think, is the piece that where people can kind of falter a little bit, because it really is such a letting go of the ego and trust. And so what
Yes.
we can do is we can start to recognize the signs that are guiding us, where now we're getting into the discussion. How do we differentiate? This is full on fear versus this is intuition protecting me. And I would suggest, if you think about whenever you've been at like a stoplight, and you're like, I just have this feeling, wherever you feel that in your body, this is the clairsenses. You might receive it as a thought, you might feel it in your gut, right? You might feel it in your heart. Wherever you feel it, you might be like, I think I meant to just wait here another moment. And sure enough, this car comes blasting through, and they would have hit you, T-boned you straight on. And you're like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm so glad I waited. Like, what if we could recognize that as like, yeah, that is intuition protecting you, right? Because you can recognize where you're receiving that, where you're feeling it. It's like for me, when I was traveling to this relationship before my now husband, that wasn't the right relationship for me. And I spun out my car. My car spun out. I was literally in an argument with this boyfriend at the time, and my car spun out. And when it stopped, and no joke, facing the direction from which I had come, if you want a sign of your sign than that, I don't really know what that is. And I heard the voice so clearly, you don't have to go. And I was like, no, that's okay. I'm just going to go anyway and suffer a little bit. Through that process, learn a lot about myself, which is fine. But, and I'm going to look at your question here in just a sec, Heather. But the other side of it is the fear that's like, oh my God, I'm so freaked out. I'm so freaked out. Like, what if it works? What if it doesn't work? What if, like, that one, what I want to do is I want to ask it some questions. I want to ask it, okay, where are you feeling it? Because when you start to recognize that fight or flight response, it's going to feel different than the intuition hit that something's not right for you. You're going to feel it differently. I think for me, it starts to bubble up. It's like a higher place. It's like, I'm breathing more shallow. Like I can feel the fight or flight response. Like I think through practicing, through body scans, through meditation, and on Insight Timer, I have a body scan for anyone who wants to check that out. This app, Insight Timer, it's a great app. Lots of great meditations. I recommend just taking the time to know the body, because the body holds the trauma, and the trauma is going to speak up for us sometimes because the trauma wants to say lots of stuff is unsafe because it looks like the trauma we experienced at some point. And that's where I come in and I help people to kind of release those layers through a guided, intuitive energy shifting session. And so when we kind of identify it, because sometimes I've seen it, it's coming from someone's past life, it's coming from generational or intergenerational trauma. And it goes beyond cord cutting, because I think sometimes when we look at cord cutting, we're looking at cutting cords in the moment with something right here and now. But it's important to look at our timelines. It's important to look at our past. It's important to look at what happened probably even eons ago, you know? And Heather, I see that you just did a post about the body and the trauma. Yeah, thank you for doing that. The more we're talking about this, the more we're normalizing it, the more people that we're going to heal, and we're not going to be working from our trauma responses. We're going to be making those decisions quicker, right? That are guided in the right direction. Because sometimes that thing that's ahead of us is meant for us. We just can't see it yet, but our guides can. And that's where the trust comes in. So I'm going to
Yeah.
stop there for a moment. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. And Heather says, get on that stage over and over again. Time to listen and act. And I am. Thanks in a huge part to you, Steph.
yay, I'm so glad to hear that. I know, like I can see it for you. It's there. And I feel like what we've been talking about, Heather, because we talk like every day, is that it's happening. And what I've seen is that I've seen for Heather, now the guides get to work, the helper guides get to work to help synchronize, to help bring synchronicities to the forefront. And I know Heather has been offered some opportunities to literally be on stage. So now, and I'm not talking for you in particular, Heather, but what I find with my clients is what happens next can be, then we freak out. Then we're like, how do I do this? And am I prepared? And am I the right person? Do I have enough information? Then we start to doubt.
Yeah.
Even though we know we're meant for it, our ego that wants to protect us is like, but wait, what? I actually get this opportunity. And so what can happen, again, this is just an example, we can self-sabotage. What happens sometimes for people, for women who are starting their small businesses and they're launching, they get launch flu. They get sick during the launch. It's like any reason to like slow this down, to stop it.
Yeah.
But when we know this, we can laugh about it because we're like, oh, there's the launch flu. It's not that we have to erase fear, because as we up level, the fears just shift. They just look different. It's just that we have the tools to recognize them and to know what to do with it. We get to actually get a little excited, like, oh, I feel afraid of this. This is a stretch. This is my stretch, right? This is where I get to grow into. Okay, this is exciting. When I walk hand in hand, I'm not fighting it. I'm walking hand in hand with my guides. I'm recognizing I have my guides and they have my back, and this is meant for me. Then I can surrender a little bit. It's not just me doing. It's like, okay, show me the way. Yeah, of course. I see how they're saying you still have the fear. Of course
Mm.
you do. I'm willing to bet there's a piece of fear that you're going to hold even up to the moment you step on stage. It's just the tools that we have to deal with it. Because there's still moments that I'm in different scenarios. I literally, I was in my hypnosis training and I have talked in front of so many people, big groups, small groups, all sorts of groups, right? Corporations, big name corporations, all sorts of stuff. And I went to stand up and say my name and what I did, and I was like in a cold sweat. And I'm like, there's nothing
Oh
at stake. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, why is this happening? There's like nothing at stake.
no. Yeah, you're just saying your name.
So yeah, I literally like my name and like what I did for a living or something, right? It's like it was like no big deal. So I'm laughing about it because it's like let's just get comfortable that fear can be and gets to be part of the equation, and we get to walk with it. It's like walking with the inner child, right? It's like, let's take the example for you, Heather, of speaking on stage, because there may be other people out there who would like to host a podcast or be on reels. Or I have a wonderful new client right now who's going to be doing her first reels. I'm so excited. And she's expressed her fears around it, right? And again, we go back to like, okay, let's notice, where do we feel it in the body? Let's start by recognizing it. Let's talk about how when we were children, perhaps, we weren't maybe recognized. Let's shift the dialogue into being able to hear and see ourselves and start with the fear. Okay, where do I feel it? Oh, I definitely feel it in my gut. I feel my shoulders and my jaw tightening up. Okay, what are you here for, fear? What do you need right now? What are you seeking right now? Well, I'm seeking safety, that this is going to work out, that I'm not going to flop on my face, that it's actually going to work, that clients will show up, that I'm going to do it the right way, that I'm going to say the right thing, right? That I'm not going to mess it up and I'm just going to ruin it because I messed it up, right? These are the kinds of dialogues that I've noticed happen with people, or that happen with people, especially talking on stage.
Yeah.
And then we look at, okay, great. Okay, so these are the fears. I see you. I recognize that that part doesn't feel safe. So now, how can we build in the belief? And I'll tell you, hypnosis is very powerful because we're talking to the subconscious. And the subconscious is running the programming, and the programming is running the body. So if we can build in the belief of safety into the subconscious, that's one way we can help. We can also do, it's a sort of another, like, subconscious is really helpful, but the other layer of visioning, like visioning yourself on stage. Look at the gaps. What do I not know? Where do I not feel practiced? Where do I not feel like I know what I'm doing? Because that we can learn. That's where we can get our resource people to help us craft our talk. Okay, I got the talk down. Awesome. Okay, got the talk down. Then what else am I afraid of? Am I afraid they will laugh at me? Do I have a memory, an imprint of when I was younger and that happened? What tools do I have to help then work with the fear? Well, I want to help you, fear. I can do tapping. I can have a hypnosis session. I can practice, right? So this is where we get to like take action in some way. So we don't have to flee. We don't have to fight or flight. We don't have to make ourselves sick so we don't have to do it, or lose our voice so we don't have to show up. That's where we get to have tools, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we need those tools in our box. And again, it's like, with intuition. Everyone does have it. Gone are the days when it was like, well, only certain people have intuition. I remember that from my, years ago.
It's gatekeeping. And I want to tell, and this is important to me. Like, this history is really important to me that you're bringing that up, because that, in a sense, is gatekeeping. And we're moving from this towered structure of expert, non expert, knower, not knower, right?
Mm.
Gifted, intuitive, seeker, to like, we all are the intuitive. We are all God walking around on this planet, right? And we have different levels of knowledge about different things. I am not a nuclear physicist. I have no intentions to be so. So if someone has more knowledge that they studied than I do, and yet, like, the idea that we have to gatekeep, or, I mean, trust me, like, I have my coaches for a reason, because I love that which someone can see outside of myself. And those who have gone before me, I do want their help. That doesn't mean that it blocks me from following my own gut, right? And that's the thing, is that I think in the past there's been this transition from, okay, we're going to try to erase these arts, the intuitive gifts, because they are so powerful and they're scary to these power structures, to then say, well, now we're going to gatekeep them and you need to go through me, which resembles something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying.
To now, like, if we, this is the thing, if we go back to like the new is the old, if we go back to the circular structure, which is equal, right? Then I may have someone that I'm getting guidance from, or that I'm is helping me understand myself better. And yet, like, I am standing as equal with them, right? So those people that came before, I don't fault them. They were just following what they knew to say and to do. And yet I feel like this is what we're talking about, this new earth, this 5D, this identity where, like, I get to feel myself in my own power at whatever level of intuition that I've entered. I know it just takes practice to deepen to the level that I desire, right? To the level that's meant for me in this moment.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone, maybe, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, 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 no. I was just going to say, and that's one of the keys, isn't it? It's practice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. This is why I host a membership where we meet twice a month and we're always doing something with intuitive. There's a whole library of courses around intuition in there. Meditating, getting your practice in with friends, like whatever it takes for you, find community, right?
Yeah,
Find community because this is where I think in a sense we have to step outside of ourselves to really kind of get that feedback of what we're experiencing and really allow ourselves to be in a playground. It's not school where we get an A or we fail. Like like the more we allow ourselves to be in our expansive imagination, we also get to be in our intuition because our viewpoint is open. It's this is where we get to like I've literally been like following the signs and numbers helping guide me right now. Like the guides are talking to me with the numbers all the time.
yeah,
And I see Heather, you're saying what I didn't want to say. Heather wrote a comment. She was like, yeah, I think that's what I was talking about. Trish,
yeah,
I see you. I'm so glad you're
yeah,
here. I'm so glad you enjoyed the hypnosis. Thank you. Yeah. And I feel like these moments where, trust me, I have them where I'm like, dude, guides, like if you want this to happen, like show me the way because I'm not getting it.
yeah,
Like we get to ask for help. And the thing is, like along our path, we can have this trajectory that you might have the highest of highs and lowest of lows. And the beauty is we get to just observe. We get to observe the fear, right? We get to observe the loop that we might be used to, right? Where we get to a certain point and it feels uncomfortable and our body loops back to something just because it knows that even if it feels chaotic or even if we don't we don't love that space, it feels safe because we know it, even if that safety is chaotic.
yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree. And Heather says, yes, now I'm an observer, and that it's freedom. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we do forget that to actually we need to observe and look at what is going on before we react.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. This is entirely it. Like we observe with neutrality. Like, where am I coming from in this decision right now? Like, I literally, I just took my daughter to Disney, right? And Disney is a lot. Some people love Disney. I'm not judging one way or the other. Disney is a lot of patience. And I'm just, you know, I'm sitting there in line for something and then the ride shuts down for a while and we're just sitting there and we're like just being patient. And I'm like, I'm not there for me. I'm there for her. Right. And so I could be like triggered by all the sounds and smells and crowds and like, oh my God. But like the thing is, when I just observe where I'm at and I kind of like let everything slow down, I recognize like, what's my intention? Right? My intention is to provide an amazing experience for my daughter. What's my
Yeah,
intention right now in this moment? My intention is to, like this morning, she did not want to go to school. Like, my intention is just to listen. I'm not trying to fix that for her. She has every right to not want to get up early after an amazing weekend and go to school. I'm like, yeah, I feel you. We're not staying home. And sorry. And like,
yeah,
I get this is hard. Like, I don't have to, I'm not attached to how I empathize, and yet I don't have to be attached to fixing how she feels in that moment.
yeah,
Just as an example.
yeah. And
Yeah. And
yeah, and that's something that I think we also forget as well, is that we kind of like we feel like we have to try and fix other people and with their decisions, when really it's, we as you say, we're there to support them, listen to them, hear them, but ultimately they have to make that decision um
yeah,
themselves.
yeah. And this is what I feel like is really important when it comes to intuition because sometimes I will get, really specific hits for people, and yet I'm really hesitant about being really predictive. I think sometimes when things come through, I just speak them, right? But I'm also aware, like, we have, just like when I decided to keep going to go and live with that boyfriend after having that accident, like, that was my choice. And I don't regret it because there's so much that I actually gained through that experience that helped me to be where I am today. And yes, it could have looked different. And like, I really don't regret that time. I think what I would have regretted is if I'd kept following fear and I'd stayed there. That would have been a mistake. That would have been a mistake. But
Yeah.
what was I trying to say? I was trying to say something. I don't know. You just said something, and I was like, "Oh,
It was
this."
hold
I
your
lost it.
space and not
Oh,
allowing someone to make their own decisions.
yeah, and I feel like this is really important when it comes to coaching and being an intuitive and helping others. Is, being in the coaching space isn't about telling someone else what to do, right? It's helping them, I think, in a sense, to feel empowered in themselves to make the choices that are right for them, right? And so I feel like it's just an important differentiation, because that's the whole idea with all of this, is that we are sovereign beings and we get to make our own choices, you know? And so even when we see our kids, in a sense, have natural consequences for their behavior, right? When we're rescuing them, saving them time over time, they're not getting the opportunity to see what it's like for something to not go right, for them to actually be late for school because, but they're used to us, like we get them up, we get them ready, we pack their lunch. Like when they have some of those responsibilities, like they get to feel empowered to do it for themselves. Like they get to be on the hook, you know? So for instance, and I think that's where it comes with, intuitive coaching. What I really love is sort of transitioning into the way that we cast the vision for ourselves for what we really desire, right? When we set those intentions, when we really get mindful about, well, what do I want? That's why I like teaching this process of vision casting, where we look at our day ahead, we look at what we really want, we look at the intention we want for our conversation. And so when something starts to get off track, we can bring it back on track. Same with when we're feeling fear. you know some of the newer things that I've done, like moving into the corporate meditation space. I mean, at the beginning of these things, I want to do a good job, and so I could feel fear. So, but if I'm coming from a place of fear, I know that it's a different place than coming from a place of serving. Like when I'm there to really serve people, the energy I'm going to bring is, I'm letting the ego go to the side. I'm letting the fear go to the side because I'm there to connect and to serve. And so anytime that I've had those feelings of fear come up, what I do is I go back into the place of like, what's my intention? What am I here for? What's going on for those people? I don't know what their day is like. Maybe they've had a really stressful day. What if I think about that, not about what I'm going through, but what are they going through? It sort of shifts the conversation, it shifts the intention, it shifts the feeling. So it's another way to kind of like move through fear, is remind yourself of like what your intention is, or how are you being of service, or who's out there that you can just, what emotion might they be feeling in the audience that you can talk to.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. And again, it's kind of like what came to my mind then. Road rage type things. Really, you might be having a bad day, and you're kind of like, and then someone cuts you up, and it's like, try and think about why that person may have, they may have had even worse day than you've had.
Having a lot of compassion, absolutely. We just never really know what's going on for someone else. And so when we make it personal, this is the beauty of taking a step back and observing, whether it's around fear or around road rage or triggers. That's what we're going to be talking about this month in my membership. It's one of the things is triggers. When we get triggered, it's like, well, why am I triggered? Someone else may not be triggered by the same experience. Like we're driving down the road and someone cuts me off. If I get triggered, I can bring compassion to myself. Why am I triggered right now? What's been going on for me in my life? Do I feel offended? Do I feel like they didn't respect me? Do I feel that they were, being dangerous to me? Like, what am I feeling? So I can get to listen to how I feel and observe that. And then also bring compassion to, I have no idea what's going on in their world, right? Just like you said, exactly. I feel like this sort of, it's a bit of the separation, this piece of separation, whether it's around fear or something else. And this is the beauty of observing. Observing helps us to listen to our intuition too. Because when we take that step back and we're just observing the thoughts, observing the feelings, we create space for our intuition to enter, for that message to enter. And so let's say you're sitting, you're quiet, you're like, okay, guys, I'm ready. And you just observe your thoughts. You can observe yourself if you're new to it and you're like, this is silly and I'm just making this up. Okay, I see you thoughts. Thank you so much. And what else? Right? You just let it come. Let it come. Because when we let those thoughts just kind of get in there and then we're judging ourselves because we're having the thought,
Yeah.
then it's like you're just off over here. But when we just like look at it like, okay, neutral. I'm just gonna observe this. I'm just gonna notice this. I'm just gonna see myself like, oh yeah, I can see myself judging this. I've done that before. I know that's kind of there to help keep me safe in some way. Okay, I see you. All right, what's next? We don't have to get caught up in it. Just
Yeah.
like we don't have to get caught up in our triggers. We don't have to get caught up in that road ragey person.
Yeah. Yeah. And Heather did say she's a self-made expert in triggering. Bless her.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
actually, I wouldn't even say self-made. This is where I really do feel like it's important to just honor and recognize like where we've come from, right? Like not just our parents, but how they were parented. This is where we talk about compassion, allowing in that compassion because and this can be I don't know what the right word is, around forgiveness. Really important one for ourselves. And I'm not saying it necessarily feels easy. I'm not trying to say this is like it feels easy or it feels like an easy journey. But we can look at, we come to this earth school, we are very imperfect, and there's this lineage of imperfection before us. And so when we talk about like getting triggered, well, that came from somewhere, right? And that probably maybe came from a parent, maybe came from upbringing, and that came from somewhere. However, that parent is parenting came from somewhere too, which came from somewhere, which came from. So this lineage can go so deep. I think when we recognize that, we realize it's not just about the person before me. Like that person road raging, that didn't just happen in that moment. That person may be walking around with a lot on their shoulders, a lot of anger that comes from this lineage. And so what we get to do again with observation and knowledge and recognition is we get to be the cycle breakers. We get to be the ones who choose to make the change. And again, I'm not saying that necessarily feels easy, and yet it gets to be our choice. That's the beauty of our sovereignty. We get to choose it.
yeah. And that is something that we really sort of like, you know, have to remember. We are our own sovereign beings. We get to choose how we show up every day. We get to choose how we react to things. We get to choose how our life is going to unfold, even though sometimes it feels like, oh, everything's happening around me and I've got no control over it. You always have control over yourself, how you feel, how you think, how you deal with your fear, your intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know for me, I feel like the real transition for me to really start honing in and listening to my intuition, really recognizing that's what it was, came when I got so far off course. I just felt so misaligned that I felt really out of sync. And that showed up in not sleeping well at night, in having arguments with that boyfriend prior to my now husband, just, walking around just things just not lining up, right? Not in alignment. And what helped me was somatic work, was sort of listening to the body, listening to what the body was telling me. What were these red flags? What were and then just observing, just being the observer of the body, doing the body scan. Like I mentioned, I have that on Insight Timer, right? So then I started to recognize like, wow, I feel this here. This feels related to this emotion. It feels related to this past thing. And then not only that, but recognizing what I could do that could really be for me, that could really be like um, moving the dial forward on something that I was committed to for myself. And I feel like those two shifts, right? One was that body scan, and two was like doing something intentional for me, were the two things that really helped me ground, helped me realign, helped me see the truth of where I was at and recognize that I could trust, that I honestly really felt like I had no other option but to trust. Like it became so untenable to live the way I was living that I had to trust, that I had to take that leap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that can happen really frequently, especially when people feel kind of trapped in their situation, right? This is where I feel like the guides are like, we are here. Like we do have your back. And I feel like when we can just take that time to like regulate our nervous system, ground, we realize where we're at in this moment, it may feel so painful, like the hardest thing we're going through, and it is temporary. It is temporary. And there are choices we can make. Like, first, take a breath, stop, regulate, do what it takes to regulate, right? Have some hypnosis, some tapping, like whatever is working for you. And recognize those things that you want to go to when you're feeling that pain, right? Is it food? Is it alcohol? Is it pot? Like, is it is it a person? Like, what is your go-to when you're like, my world's caving in? Because like those things, like they will numb it. They may help you forget for that moment, but that thing hasn't gone away. Like, I was
No.
still waking up with that boyfriend I wasn't supposed to be with. He wasn't just going away because I drank too much the night before. Right?
Yeah,
I can't
he's
make the
still there,
choice.
still hangover.
And the beauty is, it's teaching us how much power we do have, how much sovereignty we do have. Like, I got to make that choice. There wasn't someone coming to rescue me. I got to make that choice. And when I got clear and I was like, this is my commitment, that's when things were able to show up to help me along my path. That's where I had the person saying, yeah, you come to California, you can stay with me for a bit. That's where my dream job became available to me, right? Because I was saying yes, I was surrendering. I was like, yes, let's do this. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but I know I'm going to trust it because it's going to be better than this. This is not
Yeah,
tolerable for me anymore. I am not standing for myself being in this situation anymore. And even though I'm afraid, I'm going to walk with the fear. Fear, you and me, we're besties. We're going to walk hand in hand. We've got this. Let's see
yeah,
what's next.
yeah, absolutely beautiful. And Heather says, well, we get to choose if our subconscious is not wired by abuse. I had no choices in my triggered states until my subconscious rewired by hypnosis. And I really think all things are necessary: somatic, cognitive, and subconscious.
Yes. And this is the thing that I've come to realize. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. It's the realization that I've had in doing the intuitive work, like I was saying before, is that we have layers. Like in hypnosis, we talk about the layers of the mind, the layers of the subconscious, and we have an energy body. So there are some things that are going to be resolved. They're in the subconscious. And there are some things that are going to be resolved through the energy body, right? To me, the energy body, even the soul body, the karmic ties, some of these soul contracts that we've maybe come in with, that to me is going to be like the word I would use is deeper, for lack of a better word. I feel like it's going a layer deeper. And what I've come to recognize in the work that I'm doing is where I'm calling it like the energy freedom technique. And I feel like it's a beautiful sort of synthesis, bringing in the hypnosis, is that we're able to get to those deeper layers that maybe come from past lives, that come from generations, that come from, like I was saying, eons before us. Like, they could be from energy just within the collective. And when we're able to transmute that, because not all energy is necessarily like, it's not good or bad. It's just the way it's presenting itself. It's the way it's showing up. It's the way we're interacting with it. And it reminds me of a spirit clearing I did in a client and friend's house. They literally had the spirit that was like throwing things, like no joke, like things like flying across the room when it was upset with them. They were getting scratched. I mean, like, these things were tangible. They were getting scratched, things were flying across the room. So when I came in, we connected with the energy. And what I realized was that this energy wasn't just looking to shift, but you know how sometimes someone just feels like someone in the present, you feel like there's a part of you that just is lost or abandoned. So what I recognized was that there's a man in present time with a family, who has kids, who's married, who was needing soul retrieval, right? Like, this aspect, this spirit, this boy that was in my friend's house was that soul retrieval that was needed by this current person. So when we were able to not only transition that spirit into spirit space and then into current time, I mean, my friends haven't had any issues with that since. It's been quiet in their home. But I also feel like it's not like we have to banish the spirit or send it away or like, be protecting. Like, it's not like that. Like, again, bringing compassion, bringing curiosity, we can realize these things that we're able to transmute. Some of the energy that we're feeling is maybe coming from a parent that has passed or from ancestors, and we can transmute that energy into something even better, right? Just like that story I just told.
Yeah, beautiful. And Heather says, I've learnt how much power I have inside me through all of this. Which is brilliant, when you remember how much power you do have um, through everything. So, as you know, I do guided meditations and angel oracle card readings, and each week I like to ask my guests what they would like me to do for themselves and those watching. So, Stephanie, do you want me to pull an angel oracle card for you and those watching, or do a mini guided meditation?
I'm just guided towards the mini guided meditation.
Perfect. What we're going to do, we're going to do it with a card.
Beautiful.
So,
We get the best of both worlds.
yeah, so we'll
Yeah.
see what card wants to come out for Steph and everyone who's watching this live or on the
Wonderful.
replay. And let's see where this guide meditation is going to take us for. We will need to know for our high. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so close your eyes. And as you do so, take a deep breath in. And on the out breath, just release everything that doesn't need to be in this space. Take another deep breath in. And on the out breath, just release everything that doesn't need to be here. And just allow your breathing to fall into its natural rhythm. And just think about relaxing. Think about relaxing your whole body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, all the way down your arms to your fingertips. But when you think about relaxing, so you will relax. Give yourself permission and allow yourself to relax. And just feel your head now, that relaxation in your head, your eyes feeling so heavy, your jaw relaxed. As that relaxation moves down into your neck, down into your shoulders, feeling so relaxed as if they're being bathed in beautiful warm sunshine. As that relaxation moves down your arms to your fingertips, then it moves into your whole upper body and your spine just starts to relax. As that relaxation moves into the lower part of your body, sinking you deeper down where you are sitting. As that relaxation moves down your legs, all the way to the tips of your toes, and your whole body is just so relaxed. And I want you now to engage your imagination and imagine that you are standing on the edge of a wharf, and in front of you is a beautiful river, an estuary, a sea with loads of boats. And you can just see that they're all destined to faraway places, places that offer adventure and excitement. And you know that one of these boats is going to take you on a new journey to expand your life to new horizons. So just choose one of those boats now, one of those beautiful boats as it pulls up by the wharf. And you step onto that boat. And as you do, you feel a sense of connection, a sense that you're on the right boat, And now that boat takes off through the harbour into the sea. Where's that boat taking you? Just allow it to come to you. There may be things on the boat that give you an idea of where you're going, what you're doing. There may be people on the boat that you can hear talking that are telling you where you are going, what you are doing. Just allow the boat to take you wherever it will, and I'll leave you for a moment just to enjoy this ride. What faraway places, what new horizons are coming in for you now? What are you going to create? And just feel the excitement, the curiosity of where you're going, what you're going to be creating, what you're going to be doing, how wonderful it's going to be when you just trust and allow that boat, that ship to take you on that journey to those new horizons. That beautiful excitement and curiosity that you can bring into your current life. So hold that feeling at some point in your body. Just feel where it is. Maybe even give that part of your body a color, that feeling, that excitement. And just allow it to grow and build. And just fill your whole body, your whole aura with that feeling and that color. And how wonderful that feels with that new horizon. And you're going to bring that feeling, that energy back, that color back with you. And any time you need to remember that, you're just going to think of that color, that feeling, that place in your body, and just expand it. So in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. When I get to 5, you're going to come back fully present, fully ready to carry on with the rest of your day or have a good night's sleep, depending where you are in the world. So coming back now, 1, coming further back, 2, all the way back, 3, remembering your journey, where you were going, your new horizons, all the way back, 4, 5, coming fully back, fully present into your body. Wiggle, move your body, fingers and toes, drink some water, and welcome back.
Hmm. Thank you. That was
Ah,
so lovely and expansive.
yeah, and it was beautiful. And the card that came through was faraway places, get ready for new horizons.
It's literally perfect.
As they always are, literally perfect.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I just, especially just after the discussion we just had, I mean, what a beautiful way to kind of bring that part to completion, but not just completion, but continuing our journey outside of this talk here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stephanie, do you have any insights or thoughts to leave our viewers?
I really just love what you were just doing with that meditation and remembering that we are here to experience. You are an expression of source that gets to experience this beautiful world with all the emotions, all the scenarios, all the situations, including that which we deem good and we do deem bad and we deem wonderful and we deem scary. And so we get to embrace all of it. We get to embrace all of it. Everything gets to be a teacher and gets to show us the path that is aligned and meant for us.
Beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you so, so much. So I hope everyone that you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful because I know I definitely have. So, Stephanie, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, you're welcome to find me here on Facebook, just Steph Zito on Facebook. As I mentioned, I am on Insight Timer with some meditations as well, Stephanie Zito on Insight Timer. And I do have a free guide towards deepening your intuition. It's a bit.ly link called The Intuition Guide. And we go through a sway test and some other things. And I feel like people are really delighted to try it and to see how well it works. So it's a really fun way to discern where your intuition is guiding you versus where fear is talking. And I love hearing people's feedback about that. So you're welcome to that free guide as well that I'm sure will be in your show notes after this.
Oh, yeah, totally. So what I'll be doing is I'll be once the show's finished, I'll be putting all the contact details in the comments. So all people need to do is just click on it and it goes straight there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Which is absolutely brilliant. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so much, Heather, for your insights, your comments. It's been
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. You know, you've helped with the conversation, with the flow of the conversation. So thank you so so much, and thank you everyone who has been watching. And of course, if you're now ready to remember your divine presence and step onto your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to connect with me and we can see where you are now and how you can move your life forward to actually take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, please feel free to join my weekly newsletter and receive a free future life progression recording where I take you into a future lifetime to gain guidance and clarity that you can use in your current lifetime, as well as maybe a couple of other free gifts. And again, thank you so much for watching. And I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who've lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you, and hear Stephanie's brilliant wisdom. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell button. Be notified when the show goes live or I post new guided meditations. It's every subscription, every like, every comment really, really helps. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. And again, thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.